So I'm over at the place that I go to, and on the ground I saw this pen, and I looked at it, and it seemed like it was somehow broken, um, because I thought that you twisted it to get the ink to go up. So I'm like, well, there's like a piece missing on the inside. So I cut a piece of a lollipop stick, jammed that in there, and then I think I had my finger over the thing there. So I thought that it was a twist pen. So I thought it was missing a piece because when you twisted it, the ink didn't go all the way up. So I cut a piece of a lollipop stick, jammed it in there, and after fucking with it, realized that it's a click pen. Um, this is the pen. So upon looking inside of it, the tube of ink says on it for replacement ink to order it from the Fisher Space Pen Company. Um, so this pen here is a space pen that writes upside down, right? Hang on. For I'm trying to read it through my screen. For a number PR4 black medium refill, send $5 to Fisher Space Pen, Boulder City, Nevada 89005 USA, www.spacepen.com. And then it looks like it says JIB number 38RR 12/11. So it might be from December 2011. It might be from November 2012. I don't really fucking know. But it's pretty cool, and I tested it, and it absolutely does write upside down and at any angle. I didn't really believe it, but it absolutely does. And this thing would have fucking benefited me a lot when I was younger, and I used to draw constantly because I'd get tired of being in certain positions. So like I'd try to have be sitting down with my knees up and the pad of paper leaning against, resting on my thighs, but angled towards me, and that wouldn't work. I'd have to have the pen upright, so it didn't work. Because if ever you use a pen, you know that it either needs to be upright or at least the tip needs to be lower than the back end of the pen. Um, and the slighter that angle is, the less ink it's going to be putting out. Now, the thing with these, I just looked it up. Um, the thing with their pens, because one might be curious how they work that way, and I'm surprised that they don't explode due to this, but the ink tube is pressurized, so it is forcing the ink out at all times. So that means that they have that ball and the ball point tip is everything is very, very tight right there, and then the ink is extremely smooth for this ink to not be seeping out around the ball, um, and for the ink to not be jamming up the ball with that pressure there. So it's pretty outstanding, the quality of ink and the quality of um, the engineering of those two parts where they meet together. So I now have a space pen, so it's gonna be cool. Um, but while I'm out here, I might as well show some shit with the bike. Uh, yeah. So my front fender, I had zip tied on. Right down here, I had it zip tied on because on the other side there's no space to attach it. I could have attached it to the lag bolt there, the axle. Um, but on the other side, there's no way to do that because the speedometer and the brake caliper are both in the way. So to make a hole in the frame was what I would have to do, and I did not want to do it initially at all. Um, but I finally, after having the zip ties on there for a while, and it kept shifting from side to side because one side would like either slide forward or slide backwards slightly, and it would make the back here off to one side or the other. I just had enough of it, so finally, and I knew it was in the right place. I made the holes, put in some self-tapping screws, and then put a whole bunch of um, like shockproof adhesive on there, so the screws will not come out and the bracket will not move even if the screws weren't there. Um, and then in the back, I was having a problem with the top of it going side to side because where the where the hardware is on the fender to hit the frame, it's in the wrong spot. At the bottom, I was able to make it fit where the fender hole is, but up here where the fender hole is, it's just a little bit off. So I finally made this like little Z-shaped piece just to keep that from sliding side to side. Also, kind of see it there, the metal, and then underneath it, I put in that rubber piece. So in that rubber piece is a fastener that goes upwards into the hole in the frame for the fender. I did make a hole in the fender itself and had a screw going straight through it into that, but due to vibration, it ended up coming loose, and I did not feel like taking the tire back off to do it again. So right now it's this, and next time I take the tire off, I am gonna put a screw back into that hole because it's just way more secure than this is. This still shifts slightly, but not as bad. Um, but yeah, when I do it, I'm gonna put like some epoxy inside of the screw hole when I put the screw in there. And then I was here yesterday talking to my buddy that has a kit bike, one of the motors that you order online and put it on any bike. Um, and it's the same motor kit that I had before this that I've just been stripping for parts to use for this. And not all the parts are compatible, so I'm gonna give him some of the shit like the second gas tank. Well, my only gas tank, but it would be his second because he was talking about he wanted to have a second one. And I was like, that was my thought when I got the kit was have two gas tanks and like kind of have them side by side and have like a Y splitter for the fuel line. That way you can switch which tank you're using and never run out of gas basically. Um, and like the piece from a stethoscope because there's the rubber piece that goes down to the bell and then it comes up and it's like Y shaped. All the tubing, it's all one piece of rubber tubing. It's like Y shaped, and then there's the metal things that come up with the little earpieces. So one of those would work great. That's actually what this pink stuff is stethoscope tubing. But it reacted shitty to my gasoline. Um, After about 2 days, it hardened on the one that has fuel in it, which is not necessarily a bad thing because it like basically heat shrunk itself to um, the spots where it attaches. So it's like 100% tight, but it's stiff. So I don't want it to end up getting brittle and cracking or whatever. But his thing is he took the hoses like that you put under a sink to attach the faucet to the shutoffs, like to the spigots. Um, and if you've ever seen it, it's rubber tubing, usually black rubber on the inside, and then it has a steel mesh that wraps around it, and the mesh resembles like a Chinese finger trap, the way that it's woven, and then at the ends it has the female couplings to screw onto the spigot and into the faucet. So that shit looks great, and he has it on his fuel line, and it's good for contact with gasoline. So I'm gonna take the pink off there. It's gonna be steel mesh wrapped um, tubing. So that'll all be chrome looking, and then where this pink line comes up, goes around the other side and makes contact with the air filter, that's all going to be chrome too. So that's going to look fucking great. I'm really glad that I saw that. And it's another cool thing about this dude is like we get to see each other's bikes and get ideas from each other and stuff. And I was talking to him yesterday. He had these mirrors on his bike. He finally got mirrors, and they're not like mine. They come up, and this part here is flexible, so you can bend it in any direction. Like mine, you can see it's a solid piece, but his are bendable. And then the mirrors are round, but he had little blinkers in them. And I was like, no shit, where'd you get those? And he told me, and I was like, no shit. And he was like, yeah, I just drilled the holes and wired them in last night. I'm like, wait a minute, what? So he bought the little lights, little yellow LED lights, and drilled holes in the mirror, put them in, ran wires through it, and then has like a little like flashlight kind of LED thing here with wires and everything. And he's gonna hook a battery up to it and hook a flasher up to it and make it so that they actually function as blinkers individually on each side, plus the headlight and tail lights and everything. And that's the biggest issue I've had with this, is that you can get like full light kits, right? Headlights, tail lights, blinkers, everything. But the thing with that is that they need a power source, and it's usually like obviously for motorcycles and shit. So he's saying that he knows how to make an alternator that will charge off of like the back tire basically. So like the back tire, you'd have a little wheel, a little wheel up against it that as it like kind of like the old speedometers would work. As the wheel spins, it's gonna spin that little wheel and create a charge, and that charge will recharge that battery. Um, so that's something that we're talking about, and he's all about like taking apart the batteries, separating the cells, getting them the right voltage. He knows shit about lithium ion, about everything, and I guess he's also good at like circuitry and shit. So I was talking to him about needing a wire to go from HDMI to um, a computer screen, and he told me that he'd make me one. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah, dude, I'll have it for you the next time I see you. I was like, fucking awesome. He was like, so you need HDMI to, and I was like, I think DVA. He was like, no, VGA. And I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So he's gonna make me that. And then we were talking about everything, and like, he solders and does. I'd use a breadboard because I'm not good at soldering circuit boards and shit. But a breadboard is basically a circuit board with all the holes already in it, and then all you do is just plug the pieces in instead of soldering them, um, like Legos or something, basically. But it functions as a circuit board. But yeah, dude. So he would be able to like, because I like this light itself, but I'd like to get rid of this whole housing and the solar panel and everything. So he'd be able to do that, have it so it's just the light face, have that wired into my rear tail light, brake light, blinkers, and then the blinkers for the front also. And I'd be able to have it all wired in together. So I flip one switch and it turns on my front and rear lights, and then I would have a button on each side for the blinkers, or have it on one side, whatever. It would be one button for both left blinkers, one button for both right blinkers, and that would be fucking cool. Obviously, I don't think I'd want them one on each side. Um, I'd have them on the left because I don't know, it just seems to make sense. That's where I have it now. But yeah, the fact that he can do that shit is fucking awesome. And I guess he said he's got about 6 of the batteries that go to those rental scooters. He's got those at his crib, and he's already separated them and like made shit with some of them, and it's fucking awesome. And then he was telling me about making a welder, and I was gonna make one but just like raw. I was just gonna take like 5 car batteries, run them on a series, and then use jumper cables and welding rods as my welding. But he's got a little bit more intricate of a setup that he can adjust the power and everything. So yeah, it's gonna be cool. He's supposed to hit me up and come by one day because I'm gonna give him those extra parts, and then while he's at my house, he's gonna bring some shit he would that we would need so that we can kind of build some shit on my bike. And he's really good at the kind of shit that I'm not good at, and he's just not good at making things pretty. I'm really good at making things look good and function, but I'm really good at making them look good, and he is not. So, like the things that I'm not the best at, he is, and the things he's not the best at, I am. So we can work together pretty well, and both have our bikes better than we would be able to on our own. So looking forward to that. I don't think I really have any other updates. Oh, yesterday I went way down into Cranston, and while I'm down there, I found this table on the side of the road. So I strapped it on the bike and took it with me. It's fucking about a 4 foot by 2 foot top, or maybe 4 by 3, something like that. And it's got legs on both sides, and they fold out and lock into place. But on each side, the legs are kind of like a U shape almost, but the bottom has like a flat bar, and then a bar that comes down on the back side, and then the bar on the front side angles towards the back, so it gives you a little bit of space. But it has a plug that goes into the wall, and then on the side of it, it has 2 outlets and then 2 USB ports. So you plug in, you only occupy one outlet on the wall, but you're able to plug in two things like a computer and a printer, and you could plug in your phone and your tablet all at once. So that's pretty fucking cool. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep it in the garage, and rather than have my right now, like I have my drill, my grinder, my heat gun, I have all those just kind of sitting on the top of a Rubbermaid bin. Um, and then when I use them, I'm usually kneeling down, just like using it in the air, basically. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep them on the table, and that's gonna be my little work surface for using those. So that's gonna be cool. And what I'm going to do